This is from page 190. And we're going to do some more exercises every class, as I committed to you last week. And how many of you are still uncomfortable in the warm-up? Raise your hands. Okay.
One part of it.
Which part?
Well, okay, totally honest, like all
Please.
my life, in terms of warm-ups, I've always had a very specific warm-up. So it's a movement that I do for a particular sport, yada, yada, yada. And so when you say, do whatever comes out of you, and then sometimes I feel a bit scolded that I'm not doing it right. Like I have no fucking clue what my body's to do. So how do I know that I'm doing it because my body's doing it? Or how do I know I'm doing it because that was what I was taught growing up doing whatever sport I was doing? So it's like, I don't want to be scolded for not doing, like, if you see, well, that doesn't look right, that looks made up. Like, how the fuck do I know the difference?
The difference, it's really good input. And some of you, if you have additional input, I want to hear it as well. The key is if it has form at all, if there's any recognizable form to it, you're thinking about it. And it's difficult. What you're trying to do is disengage your mind. I'm going to read this to you and then see if we have a different understanding to your question after I read this to you, okay? Starting with the most basic exercises we do in class, the student learns how to plumb the depths of unconsciousness and acknowledge the inner self as the source of creativity. Stanislavski, all the exercises are, as they always have been, Daryl's way of putting Stanislavski's eloquent words into action. For him, acting was movement from the soul to the body, from the center to the periphery, from the internal to the external, from emotional experience to physical embodiment. Connecting the internal to the external. An integrated actor's body and voice is the goal of more than all the exercises that he's concocted and all the ones that we do. In his marvelous little handbook, Stanislavski for Beginners, David Allen once more quotes the master. Alas, for the actor, if there is a split between body and soul, between feeling and words, between internal and external action and movements. Alas, if the actor's physical instruments falsify and distort the expression of feeling, bless you, it's like a melody played on an instrument which is out of tune. Every class you hear, we have voice, body, and emotional life. You hear every class that what we do is take little black ink on white paper, process it through voice, body, and emotional life, and come up with interesting human physical behavior that tells the truth of the story. It's the behavior, not the words. How many times have we seen the words spoken in many, many different ways that didn't make any sense? And then all of a sudden the emotion hooks the body and the voice up, and the same words become truth. That's what we're after. And that's what we're after in the exercises. The great Eleanor Duse herself spent years tuning the instrument. A tuned actor in his process, in Daryl's process, has activated the unconscious and embraced the line of intuition of feelings, as Stanislavski termed it, which absorbs into itself all the other lines and grasps all the spiritual and physical contents of the role in the play. Unprompted images from the imagination, coupled with the emotional colors that enhance them, flowing intuitively through the student's body and voice, become the building blocks which will someday be used to construct a performance. A concert pianist who doesn't have his piano tuned would never dare play a concerto in public. A teacher who ignores, likewise a student who isn't diligently tuning his or her instrument is not ready to tackle a role. A teacher who ignores this requirement and follows an unprepared neophyte to plunge into Uncle Vanya or whatever has failed the student, is responsible for potentially disastrous results. What does that mean? That means that before you go into the scene work, and we jump into the scene work and monologue work, we have to have this under control. Now you're in process, so we do both. We have two tracks, as I've mentioned before, almost every class. One is the C3PR route, the character, relationship, place, using intellect, imagination, and instinct. And we come up with the beats and blocking, and we break down the material intellectually so that we can make choices which give us the behavior. The other track is this. We got to get into this. Every single one of you that's been up here doing a scene or a monologue has had the number one lesson learned, oh hell, I don't know it well enough, right? We put it under load, the words fall out on the floor. And if all you're doing is thinking about what the words are, guess what we see? So we learn how to take those little black ink on white paper and absorb them so that they can unconsciously come out through our vocal energy, our body energy, and our emotional life. The warm-up exercises are all about getting the three parts working together. I tell you every week, I'm an actor who teaches. That's where I came from. I've gone through this process. And when I asked you, how many of you still uncomfortable, because I was the same fucking way. I went in there and it just made me ootsy. There were times when I didn't want to do the warm-up, but I did it anyway. And then there was that moment where, oh my God, now I know what it's supposed to be. And I see it every week. I see every week when you come in new, you're in full, and you give yourself a little bit more permission every week to just let it go. We don't do this in our real life. Imagine being in a coffee shop or in the middle of a grocery store. What do you think would happen? But don't you feel like that sometimes? Driving down the road, I want to fucking kill people. I'm sorry. It's the truth. It's the way I feel. So I go in the fucking car. If I did that in the coffee shop, I'd have a problem. But in here, listen, that's what we do. We have been told, and most of you are incredibly young. You're not even starting. And all your life up to this point has been in suppressing what I'm asking you to do. Not get in touch with it. I mean, the wonderful words you said to me last week, and I see it every week. Somebody spills over. You give yourself permission. We're all carrying this shit around with us. Remember Jim Valvano, laugh every day, cry every day, think every day. That's a healthy life. Most people don't do it. If you talk to your friends outside of this class, they look at you like, what? Wait, what? You cry every day? Yeah, damn right. But if you get them to the point where they understand it, they might want to join you. Because we all feel that way, right? As actors, that shutdown of our emotions and our unwillingness to express ourselves and let our body go and do whatever is anathema. It's death, okay? We have to be willing to take this judgment and put it over in the corner, okay? And some weeks are better than others, and it takes time to do this. I mean, most of you have had 20 or 30 years at least of suppressing it, so maybe it's not going to happen in 10 weeks. Maybe it'll take more. I don't know. But if you do it, the more you do it, the better at it you get. And believe me, there will be a time when you're hooked up with your emotional energy through your body movement, you're not thinking anymore, and you go, oh, okay, so that's what that feels like. Okay? It's the judgment that kills you. I don't know whether I've answered your question or not. But what I see from your move, first of all, I'm not giving you any shit for it, am I?
Well, that's what I feel, like you're scolding because we're not getting it.
How did I scold you? How did I scold you?
Don't stop doing that, Kristen. Like in terms of
did I say that tonight?
You're doing a what was it like not a fixed movement? You're doing a.
If it has form.
Yeah,
Was
stop
that like
doing form like.
Wait, was that like 3 weeks ago?
Whenever it was, and it's not like it's fine, but I don't like. I want to make sure that. If you want me to be free, like I'm like, okay, I still don't really know how to do it.
Okay.
And like you said, it takes a long time, and I think for me, I think I'm getting voice better and I'm getting emotion better, but my body will take a little bit longer.
My observation of you tonight, I actually had no problem with it. When I came down there, you were emotionally full and connected. Vocal energy, you've never had a problem with, and I didn't see anything wrong with your body either. So I don't know what you're talking about, but if you feel that way, obviously I'm going to validate that. I'm not worried about you. Okay,
Oh,
just so you know. 'Cause
It's,
what I'm seeing is progress from all of you. You all have embraced this, and you give your power over to it, and it's wonderful. And I'm here to help you, and that's why I'm asking these questions. I want you to understand why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, how it happens and when it happens individually for you. Each one of you have had your strengths, and each one of you have had your challenges. But I don't see anything in here that that's radically wrong in any way, shape, or form. Okay, what I'm trying to get at is, I want you to stay committed to doing the exercises and the warm-ups, and vocally as full as you can, emotionally as full as you can, and getting the three hooked together. It took me a while. It really did. For my emotional breakthrough, I've told you ad nauseum that my path in was anger. And anger I didn't have any problem with. And happy, okay, I could do happy. But tears, whew. And when it finally happened, it was like I said last week when I read the passage from Daryl talking about the emotion back up and taking the cork out, and then bam, it just flowed out. I cried for 3.5 hours in class. Stuff happens, you build it up, and you have to give yourself permission to do this kind of stuff. Emotional energy to me is the most important, but if you're restricted in your movement, it's still going to be an issue for you as well. I've asked you to watch TV and film with a pad and a pencil. Honestly, how many of you still do it? Come on, be honest. You can be honest. That's it. All right? Why do you think I ask you to do those things? Because I'm just jerking you off? No. I want you to watch the stuff and be an observer, because there's this conception that film and TV is different and we don't have to do that. Well, you start watching it, you go, oh my God, holy crap, look how they use their body. Look at all the physical activity. Look, I'm like, this show's supposed to be a comedy. Why are they crying? Okay? I want you to understand the business you're in and the challenge you're in, and the question you ask is, could I do that? And if the answer is not yet, we need to work. And that's an abandonment, freedom. A good comedic actor, there's no restrictions, no boundaries with their body. They'll find a way, okay? Are there any other questions about the exercises specifically? Any confusion, anything at all? Okay, good. You all right?
yeah,
Thinking about your scene?
a little.
A little bit, all right. I want to pass this on to you. How many of you know who John Wooden was? He was the famous coach of the UCLA Bruins that won 11 titles in a row. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was second to last, followed by Bill Walton. These are giants. And he was known as an extraordinary teacher, and he once said, don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. It does not matter how slowly you go, only that you do not stop. That was Confucius. How many of you heard of him? Thank God. The harder I works, the luckier I gets. That's from a cartoon called Pogo, but it's also true. Repetition is the mother of any skill. Never give up on the things that make you smile. No masterpiece was ever created by a lazy artist. Greatness doesn't take days off. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. That's by Robert Collier. What do all these things mean and have in common? We learn by failing. I've said to you before that I would like to have a talk with whoever set that system up, because I think there's maybe a better way. But there's no use in pushing the river or fighting City Hall, because that's how we do. I've asked how many of you play a musical instrument. You can relate. If you don't do scales, if you don't practice every day, you don't improve. You can't, I don't care how good you are at an instrument. Yasa Haifa said, if I don't practice today, I know it. If I don't practice 2 days, my agent knows it. If I don't practice for 3 days, the whole world knows it. Nobody played the cello, I think it was either cello or violin better than he did. We lose it, okay? It's the same thing with acting. It's why I assign you certain things to do as an actor. Nothing worse than you haven't been doing your exercise, you haven't been doing your numbers, you're not really working on your monologues or scenes, and then all of a sudden you have a big audition come up. And just the fact that you haven't done your work gets in your head. Instead of, if you're working along and you're ready all the time when that big one comes along, you're much more able to do it the right way. Thomas Edison was once asked that everybody knew he had basically 999 failures until he invented the light bulb. And they asked him, didn't it make you upset or whatever by 999 failures? He said, I never looked at it that way. I looked at it as 999 ways not to make a light bulb. What's the component that's different? I believe it's passion. Acting for me is a labor of love. If you're in this business just because you want to be famous, I'm here to tell you, you are in the wrong business. If you have a labor of love, then you'll never have a job because you love what you're doing. And that passion, that's what's universal about these things. You know, doesn't matter how slowly you go, only that you do not stop. The harder I work, the luckier I get. Repetition is the mother of any skill. Greatness doesn't take days off. Success is the sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out. The common denominator in that is passion, love of what you do. How many of you love acting? Better have all your hands up. Better love it, okay? Thank you for being here, all of you that love acting. I love it too, so let's act together. Thanks for listening.